What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of my HLTV Fantasy. Today we are looking at Blast Premier Spring Groups 2024. First of all, I won't be using the Excel sheet for this one. The number one reason for that is that there's just too many player changes in teams, and there's been too large a gap between like the last events and this one. So I think the Excel sheet works the best when I have actual data to go off of. And I think there's a lot of players who right now whose stats are so wonky, don't really make much sense, that it doesn't seem like the greatest idea. I think I can make a better team just by, or it would anyway take into account way too much of my own thinking. But once we are a couple events deep, once these teams play a bit more, I will be using the Excel sheet again. And of course, new season of Fantasy. I don't know if they made many changes. To be honest, I think it's just a new season with, again, 10k in prizes for the season leaderboard. And of course, now that's gonna, again, shift the way I play the game into, at least at the beginning, being more conservative, making safer choices around teams that that could be very picked. Like if you look at the most picked players here, I think I will be going into this similar kind of direction with my team. Of course, it's a bit boring. I understand it's not the most exciting way to play the game, but I think it's, at least early on, the best way to have the highest expected amount of points. Let's just go through each group. I think it's the best way to think about this first. Of course, we have 4 groups into a single elimination bracket. This is just the groups. Actually, I wonder. So it's called, the event is called Blast Premier Spring Groups 2024. I assume it takes the, it takes the play-in stage as well. Yeah. So actually, this is only these groups, and then I suppose this as a play-in thing. I'm not 100% sure how this works. Group C, second place, like the loser of these games. I wonder if this is some kind of like seeding game. How did this go last time around? So if we go Blast Premier, fall groups. Of last year. Single elimination bracket, okay. Yeah, so Vitality, okay. And then they got seeded. This is a bit different, I think. We only have 3 groups? Yeah, we only had 3 groups. And the winners of each group already qualified, and then the losers of the groups had to win in this single elimination bracket. Okay, but this time around only the, I guess, the finalists. It's a bit more cutthroat. Either way, we're gonna be looking to pick players from the teams that are the strongest in their representative groups. So if Vitality go 3-0, we're gonna be super happy picking Vitality players. That is the first group. I think Vitality, OG, Astralis, Falcons, the obvious favorites are Vitality, especially because they're playing a team like OG first, who I have like very little expectations for, if any. I think this is gonna be a stomp by Vitality. Number 1 seed in the event, I would assume, against the lowest seed in the event. If I had to guess, I'm not 100% sure about that, but it looks like it. Astralis, Falcons. It's interesting. Both of these are somewhat new teams. We have seen Astralis play like some events. I actually have higher expectations for Falcons. I think this end score is underrated. Like Sanpayu's Snappy as a leader. Then we get like a firepower Boros, and then Magisk, who is like a really, probably the best player in his role. So I think Falcons could be the other team to get through here into the final. But I mean, the obvious team to go for in Group A is Vitality. I think they are the strongest team in the event. They're the number 1 highest ranked team. The only problem is that they are pretty expensive, so even someone like Apex is at 202 grand, but also, I mean, his rating has been pretty good lately, so maybe someone to consider. Of course, we have like Flames, Spinks, Mezzi. Apex is among the most picked players. All of these IGLs of the top teams are safe picks to some extent, I would say. Group B, FaZe Gamer Legion. FaZe should win. This new Gamer Legion hasn't really impressed. And they still have, I think, I would say, a bit of an inflated rank. Whereas FaZe, bringing in Frozen is super, super good. I do think this FaZe lineup is perhaps even gonna be a bit better than the one with Twists, but very close, of course. I'm not underrating Twists at all. I definitely expect them to be the best team in this group, and I am definitely eyeing up FaZe players for my team as well. Spirit, unfortunately, are gonna play with 2 stand-ins. Instead of Donk, especially having a standing is gonna be a big problem for them. I believe those stand-ins also have, they have the prices of Donk and Magics. I was actually eyeing up Chopper before that, because I do think Spirit have a pretty okay chance of winning here. They have a pretty okay chance of beating Gamer Legion if they play against them later. I think, especially with Shiro, I think anything can happen. And I actually kind of like Chopper as a player. He's usually kind of reliable, pretty high headshot percentage, and a very cheap price. So I was looking at him a bit, but now with these changes, I'm not gonna be going there, I don't think. And then there's Liquid, who are like, well, the ratings are first of all super inflated because they played those NA events, like NA RMR thing and such. I don't think I want to go for Liquid, even though their prices are very reasonable, like Naf and Yakindar especially, maybe Twists, maybe Katie, and even maybe Skulls for this price could be really good. I just don't have any idea who the player would be who's like the one to pick. I think Yakindar most of the time in this lineup is gonna be like who I would go for. But it's a pretty big risk, I think, to take this early on. I have faith in this team in the long run. I definitely think they can be the second team in this. I do think FaZe they just have more experience together. That always matters. This is also played on LAN, so that also plays into FaZe's hand a bit. They are a pretty good LAN team. So I would like to go for FaZe more here, but I can understand if you want to gamble a bit with Liquid. I'm just not comfortable taking many gambles this early on. Group C, pretty interesting. I think G2 the obvious favorites going into it. They just have such good players. Like m0NESY and Nico can always carry them. Against NiP, this shouldn't be even a contest, to be honest. I don't think NiP are even close to the level of G2. And HLTV does become a very decent option, because he definitely could have like a well above 1.0 rating match against NiP. So if you need a filler, like either way, if you need a filler like cheap player, I think HLTV can work. And if you want to build your team around someone like Nico or m0NESY, either one is definitely a great option. Even Hunter or Nexa, why not? But maybe those 3 more than the others. And then Na'Vi Complexity is like a super interesting first matchup, because Complexity showed very good things in CS2. Na'Vi actually, I think, they get a bad rap, but they're doing decent, especially with all these player changes. And Wonderful has been a very okay replacement for Simple. If you're gonna have to replace Simple, I think Wonderful's been doing a really good job. I think it's 250-50 of a matchup to pick anyone from either of these teams, in my opinion. If I was to say that one was a slight favorite, I guess Na'Vi. But it's very close, and I'm just not gonna go for either of those teams because it's too risky to go for to get. And it also goes to show, like, this is, I think, also a group where it's tougher to predict who's gonna win all their first games. If you get directly to the group final and win that's like the best case scenario, right? But But I'm not sure if G2 beats Navi or Complexity. I think that's also going to be a very close one. I would say G2 are favored against Navi or Complexity, but it's definitely closer than, for example, FaZe or against Liquid, in my opinion, or Vitality against Falcons. That's why I kind of lean towards Vitality and Vitality and FaZe, sorry. And then Group D is maybe the most interesting group, because I can see a case being made for any of these teams. So VP have been very solid. They just have a very solid team full of capable players. I think as well on LAN they usually do quite well. Then we have Big, who are really playing quite well in CS2, but they mostly have played well in the online scene and they haven't played too much offline. So maybe Big is not the one to go for if you want to go for this group. But then again, like, if you want to take the gamble, Big have Crimbo at 206 grand, who's been like their best player for a pretty long amount of time now. And the prices just in general are very okay to go for. So if you want to gamble on Big, I don't mind it, but I think there are just better options. Then Cloud9, like, I think they should be the best team in this event, in this group, sorry. But then again, they don't have an AWPer. Axile has not been like himself for a while. I think he's maybe getting a bit better, which makes me kind of consider him for sure at this price point. Then we have Heroic, with this basically completely new lineup. Like, they have 3 new players in Nikodos, Nerds, and Shush, and Sixan. So it's a new lineup built around Tessus and Shush. I think they might struggle early on. I know they like made it through already to the EU RMR thingy, but I mean that's very expected. But against like Cloud9, it's gonna be way harder. So my favorite for this group is probably Cloud9, and then second favorite would be VP. But just in general, I think it's too unpredictable of a group, and I don't want to go for any of the players from Group D. What this kind of leaves me with is I want to go FaZe Vitality, and I mean it's boring, but it's just the way these groups are also seeded. Like, if G2 and FaZe were swapped, I would go for FaZe more so. But it's very close. And then I think the last player is gonna probably end up being Hooksy, just so I can get some money. And I think G2 still have a very decent chance of just winning their group as well. So if you want to do that, it would be Hooksy. I think Apex is almost like a must-have. I think Carrigan is also probably a must-have if you want to go for this. I don't think you can have enough money for everything. Yeah, I mean, like, this kind of almost builds itself. I think Frozen is probably the best of the like 3 expensive FaZe players. It just makes sense money-wise as well. Obviously, like, you can't do anything like this without Carrigan. We're going with the 3 most popular players, maybe even 5. Yeah, maybe even the 4 most popular players in the event. But I don't really see why I shouldn't do it, to be honest. I think it's just the best way to play it. I would love to, but I mean, yeah, Spinks has been really good, of course. Like, I would love a Zaiwu lineup, to be honest. I just don't know how I would make a Zaiwu lineup. I think it would have to be like another cheap, super cheap player, like 4 IGLs. Well, doesn't it maybe have to be an IGL? Yeah, with Exile, actually. That's kind of tempting. Going big on the Wu. He is the best player in the game, like, I think quite clearly. It's just a matter of like how much faith I have in like Exile and Cloud9, and I think the group is too unpredictable, and I'd rather just kind of spread the money around. I don't think this is an easy event, by the way. Just in like general terms, I would say this is a pretty difficult event. There's no obvious choices to be made. This also works. I think props maybe. I mean, at this price point though, it's pretty expensive. But then like, Messi has been of course pretty decent for vitality. There's a low sample size though. I think this has higher potential upside going with Frozen and Spinks. I think Messi doesn't have, like, of course he can like pop off and shit, but can I go, is there like any options to Hooksy? There's Chopper, yeah. No, I don't want to go for anyone like this. I know there's like higher potential upside on like a Keto or whatever than Hooksy, but also the potential, like the floor is so low. Because I don't expect OG to be winning much. And I do think Hooksy can actually farm up some stats against teams like NIP. This is like pretty much the first lineup I made. It's safe. Because you have to understand how fantasy also works. This is also something that kind of... I've been playing a lot of FPL, like I said in a video earlier. And this thing called like effective ownership or just ownership is a pretty big thing. Because it works the same in HLTV fantasy. Where the more a player is owned, the more they can harm you. Like if you don't have Carrigan and Carrigan does super well, that means you're gonna go down a lot of spots from what you could. If Carrigan is like the best value for money in the whole event, which is completely possible, that's gonna hurt your rank a lot. Whereas like if some weird player like a Keto completely pops off, like yeah, you're gonna be happy to have Keto, but those who don't have Keto don't lose many ranks. So that's why it's kind of good to just have those players that are highly picked. Like if I go for this lineup, I think the scariest things are gonna be things like what if Axile has a really good event and like Cloud9, because he's quite highly owned, and there's a real chance that he does super well here. He's still like this year he wasn't at his best, but we know that he's capable of being like a top rifler in the world, which is why he's picked as much as he is, and that's completely fair. But of course you have to also understand that there's always going to be risks associated with whatever picks you make. But okay, I think this is the lineup as long as like roles make any kind of sense and boosters. This is not easy actually. But Carrigan could be headshots. Interesting. What is best for like Spinks, this or CT? CT is seemingly the best one for Spinks. Stat Hunter pretty decent as well, but CT is a bit better. Let's go for that. I think Apex IGL makes by far the most sense, just because of the fact that he's the most likely to go 3-0 in my opinion. He's the most likely to 2-0 the first match as well and such. Frozen is difficult because like depends, now that he's gone to phase, it could have a real impact on what his best roles and such are. Really high support round percentages though. Stat Hunter also not bad for him, but I think support might be it, unless like it's way better on Carrigan than any of his other roles, which seems to be the case. Actually, eco-friendly is decent. What about Hooksy? Hooksy is really good on the eco-friendly. Yeah, I'd rather go eco-friendly on Hooksy than noob. Of course, these stats are again like probably slightly inflated in one way or the other, but I don't want to go noob. Although it makes more sense at the start of the season like this. I would say support Carrigan, and then Frozen, whatever his best role is, probably multi-fragger. Yeah, the stats agree. Let's go with that. And then first matchups are pretty easy for Vitality especially. I mean, I don't know what would be a safer choice. I think you have to go feeling this feeling 22 here against OG. I don't see Vitality losing a map against OG. Yeah, Apex throws flashes for us. This should be Hooksy. Yeah, I would say this is maybe actually something else for now, and then for later we give that. Will be also rather on Apex. Lists. Damn, Apex really is shining in these boosters. Another reason to, of course, like pick him over some of the others. Top of the scorecard. I think it's probably more likely, honestly, on Spinks than Frozen. It's a bit difficult. I'll say Spinks, top of scorecard. This is always some level of gamble, unfortunately, but what can you do? Oh yeah, Mr. KSD Spinks is better on average. Headshots rather on maybe, but actually let's go headshots here on Hooksy. 30% is decent enough. Bait for later. Saver on Frozen. That's probably for later as well. I'd rather have like the top of score. Let's go top of scorecard Frozen. That's okay. Then just something on Carrigan that makes sense. I mean, cannon fodder actually probably makes a decent amount of sense. If there's nothing much better, yeah, let's go cannon fodder. That's fine. But yeah, as I said, pretty cookie cutter lineup. But I'm just looking to get like a decent start. I don't want to be getting a super bad result this early on in the season. I think it's an unpredictable event. This first event of the season. We've seen that before with like first blast event of the year. But I just feel like these two teams, especially in Vitality and FaZe, are like they are the safe bets to go for, and going a bit heavier on Vitality even is just sounds like the correct choice to make. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.